Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Board, and today's show is presented by Manscaped. The Las Vegas Raiders were allowed 30 top prospect visits, and if you want to be a top prospect for your girl, then go to manscaped.com. Use code Raiders on all of their amazing products for 20% off and free shipping. So coming up here today, one of my favorite shows that I do at Chat Sports are NFL Power Rankings. So I was like, all right, how could I take NFL Power Rankings and then do that with the Raiders' top 30 visits? So essentially, I have ranked from 30 all the way down to 1 in terms of overall team needs / how good they are. I put together my own personal big board of the Raiders' top 30 visits, and we're going to count down from 30 and go down to 1. Coming in here at number 30, his name is Tre Hawkins, cornerback from Old Dominion. I'll be honest, before this show, didn't do a lot of research on him. I don't think that he actually ends up getting drafted. To me, this is going to be a player that, if he goes undrafted, could be an interesting UDFA signing because of the length. 6'3", 195 pounds, good production from Old Dominion, and I was told by a good source that the Raiders like some of the Old Dominion players, which you'll see here in just a second. Let's go to the next player on the list at number 29, Jake Witt, offensive lineman from Northern Michigan. Another player that could be a 7th rounder, if you will. More than likely, though, is going to be a dude that ends up going undrafted. At least that's my personal opinion on Witt overall. So you don't have to go to it, Jeremy. So Jake Witt, the stats there, unfortunately, are not accurate. Let's go to 28. It's DJ Johnson, the edge out of Oregon. I like DJ Johnson. He's edge / outside linebacker is how I would look at it. 39 tackles, 6 sacks, 0 forced fumbles, is from Sacramento, so like the beam. And he's undersized for a defensive end, but he's a lot bigger than a linebacker. So if the Raiders don't like Malcolm Kuntz, they could potentially look at him. I anticipate DJ Johnson to be around 6 to around 7 selection in this year's draft. Let's go to number 27. It's a name that a lot of y'all are going to recognize. It's Dorian Thompson-Robinson. It's not that I don't like Robinson. I think he's a really athletic quarterback. To me, I don't think he's that good of a fit, though, in the Josh McDaniels system. And then on top of that, there's other quarterbacks that the Raiders have met with, which is why he's at number 27. Las Vegas native, decent arm, not the best decision maker for the amount of football that he's played with the Bruins. At number 26 here are my top 30 visit rankings, Jason Taylor II. Good safety prospect out of Oklahoma State. Probably going to go somewhere in that 5th, 6th, 7th round range. 6 foot, 215 pounds. I do think he could end up being a solid special teams player, but he's got production. When he had the ability to cause a turnover, he did it. 6 interceptions, 7 pass breakups, 99 tackles last season for the Cowboys. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for more Raiders draft videos. We put out more content than literally anybody out on YouTube. In fact, the reason why we have over 136,000 subscribers, because we put out a video every single day on this channel for 3 straight years. If you like commitment to excellence, we're the channel for you. Let me prove it to you. Subscribe. Let's go to 25 on my list. It's Daniel Scott. I don't know if he's related to Michael, but I hope that this guy gets his paper this upcoming season. He's probably going to go somewhere in the 5th, 6th round is where I anticipate it. Really good leader for Cal last season. 85 tackles, 3 INTs, and 4 pass breakups. At number 24 in my rankings, Aidan O'Connell, the quarterback from Purdue. I know that the Raiders like O'Connell a lot. And if they want to target somebody on day 3, this is the player that I believe that they end up targeting. They have met with him privately. They had a combine visit with him. And then they also had a top 30 visit, obviously, right? He's in the show. So they like Aidan O'Connell a lot. At number 23 in my rankings, it's Jaelyn Duncan, the offensive tackle from Maryland. Depending on who you talk to, Jaelyn Duncan is the prospect that I'm just going to do the I don't know emoji, because from an athletic profiling standpoint, super athletic. Like, he is super athletic. From a I watched the tape standpoint, look at the numbers from 2022, he stinks. Like, that's just me being real. If you're Carmen Brasillo, though, you look at this guy as a piece of clay, and you're like, I can mold him into something beautiful. Sounds kind of weird. Let's go to number 22, Dorian Williams, the linebacker out of Tulane. The Raiders looked at a lot of linebackers and even a lot of cornerbacks, I would say, that are probably going to go in that third round to fifth round range, which is one of the biggest reasons why I'm a believer that the Raiders use those 7 picks from round 5, 6, and 7 to trade up to get back into like these middle rounds, round 4, round 5 area. Williams had a pretty solid season this past year with a Green Wave. 131 tackles, 5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Another player that I hope ends up happening is Zack Kuntz. Zack Kuntz might be one of my favorite overall prospects in this year's class. He is, if you want to look at numbers, the numbers that he put up at his Pro Day Combine were better than Darren Waller's. He's 6'8", 250 pounds. He went to Penn State. It did not work out there. He goes over to Old Dominion. If you want an unbelievably freakish athlete at tight end who's that big and that you can probably get a little bit later on, his name is Zack Kuntz. And if they draft Hendon Hooker to Kuntz in Las Vegas, sounds like a t-shirt. If you haven't already heard, our sponsor today is Manscaped, and there's probably a joke in there somewhere with Zack Kuntz, but I'm not going to make it. Use code Raiders at manscaped.com to get your hands on the Lawnmower 4.0. This bad boy is usually $85, but with our discount code, you can get it for $67.99. Honestly, I think they're missing on this. You add an extra $1 to that, and that thing's going to just fly off the shelves. And if you're trying to get to that extra $1, you know what I'm talking about, you better make sure that your downstairs is shaved. I wore this jersey for a reason. Shout out to Hellcat Q. I know Hellcat Q. He's using Manscaped. His balls are looking fresh and clean because he cares. With the NFL draft, all I'm trying to do right now is make sure that you're the top prospect. You want to be number 1 on your board. And if you're using Manscaped, Jeremy, it's not just a board, it's a big board. Every inch counts, and that's what Manscaped's going to help you do. So 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. If you don't know, go down to the comments, go down to the description right now. Take advantage of this deal. Steven69 says fresh and clean. That's right, Steven, and that's why it's 69. Let's go to number 20 on my list of top 30 visit rankings. Byron Young, the edge out of Tennessee. When I did these rankings, when I got done, I'll be honest, I felt like I had Byron Young too low. I really did. I like him as a prospect. I really, really do. He's undersized, but he's really athletic. 47 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and a forced fumble. I will be curious because I know how much the Raiders love chemistry. The fact that they took Matthew Butler last season, could that lead to them taking Byron Young this season? Number 19, his name is Cory Trice, and it's a name that I want you all to know. Cory Trice is another player that I brought up probably a good month ago on this show, and I said he's going to be a player that people need to start recognizing. 6'3", 215 pounds, very athletic, very long and lanky. If the Raiders were able to land Trice in like the 4th or 5th round, it's a steal. He's the number 99 overall prospect on my big board. So if you had to go get him at 100, I'd be on board for it. Trice out of Purdue is a hell of a player. At number 18, I'm going to go with Jammie Robinson, safety from Fresno State. And every prospect you're going to see from here on out is in my top 100. Robinson, super versatile safety, who the Raiders, from what I understand, are looking for a player that they can use in a, I'm going to say like Jabril Peppers, Julian Love, like a versatile safety that they can play all over the football field. And that's what Jammie Robinson can potentially do for Patrick Graham. Number 17 here, cornerback out of Miami, Tyrique Stevenson. I'm still a little bit up in the air on how much I like him. Like, some of the people that I trust love Tyrique Stevenson. And then there's other people out there, I'm like, that they don't love him. If you want to talk about a freak athlete, he is. He is a freakish athlete. But sometimes I don't love the tape. And I am a person that loves tape first. If you want to bet on talent, Tyrique Stevenson, though, is probably a player that you can bet on. Let's go to number 16 here. It's Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid has good numbers. Can catch the football. 6'4", 240 pounds, 70 grabs, 890 yards last season for Utah. The negatives, injuries, and he's, I believe, 25 years old. I'm 30 now, so it sounds weird to say somebody that's 25 is old, but in NFL terms, 25 is kind of getting up there in age, especially for being a rookie. At number 15, it's Zay Flowers. If wide receiver was a need for the Raiders, Flowers would be higher on my list. I love Zay Flowers, and I'm not saying this because whatever. From a selfish reason, I hope Zay Flowers goes to another team, not the Raiders. Because I think he's going to be a player that he's going to go to another team and he's going to have success. Where if he goes to the Raiders, honestly, if the Raiders were to draft him at 38, I'd be like, which I've said probably 100 times this offseason, that's bad news for Hunter Renfrow. He's a really good player, really good athlete. Yes, he is undersized, but he's a lot stronger than what he gets credit for. Zay Flowers is a hell of a prospect, but this is also based on team needs. Does anybody think that the Raiders need a wide receiver right now? I know I don't. At number 14, it's Hendon Hooker, quarterback from Tennessee. There are some people out there that have Hendon Hooker ranked a lot higher. I think he is a good quarterback. He's going to go in round 2. I have him just at like 47 or 46 in my rankings for prospects overall. Before the ACL injury, I think he might have been the Heisman frontrunner. And unfortunately for him, because of that, he would have went higher if he wouldn't have torn the ACL. There's just a lot of other quarterbacks that I would rather the Raiders take, and I want the Raiders to go defense early on. So, yeah, I would still convince myself that, okay, Hooker at number 38 is probably a C grade. But deep down, I would rather the Raiders take a quarterback like a Jake Haener, Aidan O'Connell in round 5, round 6, and stock up on defense instead of taking Hooker at pick 2 and then maybe potentially missing out on some defensive players a little bit later on. At number 13, his teammate, Darnell Wright, offensive tackle from Tennessee. Another player that I will say is ranked higher on my overall player big board, but for the Raiders is not ranked nearly as high. 6'6", 335 pounds. He might be the second, third best offensive tackle in this year's class. I just don't believe offensive tackle is that much of a need compared to what some ESPN NFL analysts think out there. I'll tell you this right now. I know this Raiders team better than anybody on ESPN, better than anybody on the NFL Network. I don't care who it is. This is my life. Darnell Wright, hell of a player. It's not that big of a need. Let's go to number 12 here. It's Daiyan Henley, linebacker from Washington State. The Silver and Black love this young man, and he's probably going to go in round 2. If he falls to round 3, the Raiders are going to do jumping jacks, and he's a player to absolutely keep in mind for them to trade up for. They love his sideline-to-sideline ability. They like his ability to play in coverage. Also, from what I understand, the Raiders view him as being a good fit if they want to go with 4-2-5, which is what Patrick Graham sometimes tries to do with 5 defensive backs and 2 linebackers. So Daiyan Henley, definitely a guy to keep in mind. He's number 12. Let's go to another linebacker, though. It's Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell is not as nearly as, I'll say, versatile as Henley, but there are some players that are just really good at football. And Jack Campbell, to me, out of Iowa, is my number 2 ranked linebacker overall. 125 tackles last season for the Buckeyes. Is definitely more of your prototypical middle linebacker. But you know what? I think he's, right now, better than Robert Spillane. If they were to draft Jack Campbell better than Spillane right now. And if that's the case, I'm the guy, I'd rather you play the better player. Before I show you my top 10, what's the best food to eat while watching the NFL draft? I mean, Jeremy's actually the leader of food here at Chat Sports. He gets us a spread, giggity, of all sorts of different food. My personal favorite food when enjoying the NFL draft, quesadillas. Simple, easy to pick up, get some protein, not too messy. I want to know, though, because I'm hoping y'all watching our live NFL draft coverage here on Chat Sports, here on the Raiders Report, you're going to be chowing down with us. Let's go to number 10 on my list here of top 30 visits for the Raiders. Kelee Ringo. Kelee Ringo, the more and more I watch him, the more and more I start to think, could he be, I'm going to say a name and it's going to scare the hell out of you, what the Raiders were hoping that they would get with Jonathan Abram. And what do I mean by that? A player that is athletic, but Ringo actually can cover a lot better than Abram ever could. Ringo is bigger than most corners, and he's a little bit undersized for a safety. However, if the Raiders were to draft him, I think he would end up playing that role where it's like box safety that you can also drop back as a strong safety and can just be a person that just flies all over the football field, because from an athletic standpoint, he's one of the most athletically gifted players in this year's draft class. At number 9, it's Will Levis at quarterback. I know the Raiders aren't 100% sold on him, and I don't really think that anybody is. Does he have arm talent? No doubt about it. Does he have a high upside? No doubt about it. Do people compare him to Josh Allen? Yes. Why? Because that's where his upside is. But if you're an NFL team, you have to be able to recognize the floor. And is he a top 20 overall prospect at this point? Yeah. He probably is on most people's boards. There are some teams, though, that don't have him in the first round. He's a good quarterback, but for team needs and where the Raiders are, he's number 9 on my list. At number 8, I'm going to go Deonte Banks, cornerback out of Maryland, which I am super happy about, because the more and more time has gone, the more and more respect Banks has gotten. I remember 2 months ago, I said, watch out for Banks to be a early second-round pick. And now, I don't even think he falls to the second round. He's 6'2", 205. He might be more athletically gifted than a Christian Gonzalez, than a Joey Porter Jr., than a Devin Witherspoon. Like, he's that physically gifted. Needs to get better with his technique a little bit, but what Banks brings to the table, I'm ready to cash in. Let's go to number 7 here. It's Brian Branch at safety from Alabama. I do not think that safety is a bigger need than corner, but Branch to me is that much better than Banks, where to me, I would take Branch if he was on the board for the Raiders. If the Raiders are like 14, 15, 16, 17, yes, I get it. He's a safety. I would still go that route because of the key word, versatility. And that's why Branch is ranked higher than me than Banks. At number 6, it's Anthony Richardson. He is, I'll say, the most interesting prospect in this year's draft. I mean, I don't know if he drinks Dos Equis, but he's the most interesting player in this year's draft. He can be the best quarterback in the NFL. That's his upside. He also could be out of the NFL in 3 years because of the downside. If you can put him in the right system and you can put the right talent around him, he has the opportunity to be that good. But if anybody can look you dead in the eyes and say they know for a fact what's going to happen with Anthony Richardson, they're lying to you. Before I show you my top 5, what is your drink of choice when you watch the NFL draft? I know for Chugs and I, we're going to have some Happy Dads. We're going to have some Trulies. Probably going to have some light beers as well. Fireball, duh. No, probably none of that. So what's your favorite choice of drink when you're watching the NFL draft? We will not have the presenting sponsor of the draft. Joey Porter Jr. next up here at number 5. And this is where I start to get into the realistic options I look at for the Raiders at number 7. He's a good player. Is he a little bit handsy? Yes. But athletically gifted, would be a good fit in Graham's system. Press cornerback, 6'2", 198 pounds. People love the fact that his dad, Joey Porter, longtime Steelers great, knows what it takes to succeed in the NFL. And I know there's a lot of coaches out there where if dad did it, he can teach kid. And teams like that. Ziegler and McDaniels, like, he's my number 2 cornerback on my, that's a lie. He's my number 3 cornerback this year. Let's go to number 4. It's Tyree Wilson. Corner is a bigger need than edge rusher. I'll tell you that right now. However, Tyree Wilson is my number 2 ranked overall edge rusher compared to where Joey Porter is my 3rd ranked corner. And there's a big enough gap where I put Tyree above Joey. So if it came down to those 2 players and you had to pick one, I will take Wilson. I would love the fact that you pair him with Max Crosby. Tyree Wilson reminds me a lot of Chandler Jones. And if he turns out to be a player like Chandler Jones, that's a Hall of Fame caliber player. He's that physically gifted. Tyree Wilson is going to be a menace in the NFL. At number 3, it's Jalen Carter. And this is more just based on the on-field ability. You can't deny it. Jalen Carter is an unbelievable talent. Nobody will dispute that. It's the off-the-field shenanigans. And if it wasn't for the off-field shenanigans, he would be number 1 on my list. At number 2, it's quarterback C.J. Stroud from Ohio State. This is Dave Ziegler's favorite quarterback in this year's class. However, it is not McDaniels' favorite quarterback in this year's class. There's going to be a lot of people that look at the Ohio State helmet. I don't want you to look at that. I want you to judge the player. From his tape alone, it's solid. There's going to be people out there that look at the S2 testing, which I've talked about. He scored in the 18th percentile. That's not good at all. But I believe C.J. Stroud has the prototypical size, arm strength, everything to look at to be successful. It's just, will he find the right spot? That's the biggest question mark with Stroud. Coming in here, though, at number 1, it's Bryce Young. Bryce Young is the number 2 quarterback for Dave Ziegler, but the number 1 quarterback overall for Josh McDaniels. He scored in the 98th percentile in the S2 test. Is he undersized? Yes, absolutely. Should that worry you as an NFL franchise? Of course it should. But I'm also a big-time believer in, I'm going to call Bryce Young the Stephen Curry of football, where it's a big thing to live up to, but there was a lot of teams out there that said Steph Curry's too small. Steph Curry's not going to be good enough to play in the NBA. But Steph Curry could ball. And when I watch Bryce Young, dude can ball. And I really, truly believe that where he goes, he's going to have success. Will injuries come? Maybe. But that's the NFL. Injuries are always a risk. Bryce Young is a baller. And for that reason, he's number 1 on my top 30 visit list. So who's your guy? Who's the number 1 player Vegas brought in on a visit that they should draft? I want to know the name right now. That was my top 30 list. The number 1 player that Vegas brought in on a visit that they should draft, in my personal opinion, out of every single player that they brought in, I'm going to tease you a little bit. We're going to roll through the top 30 rankings here real quick. But if overall value, if I had to go with any person out there on the overall value chart, I'm going to say Cory Trice. If you can get Trice probably in the 4th or 5th round, that's a steal. If you got to take him a little bit earlier, it is what it is. I love Jammie Robinson, the safety out of Florida State. I think Joey Porter Jr. is a good player, though he's my 3rd ranked overall corner. They didn't bring in Witherspoon. I see he's from Frozen Raider, but I want the Raiders to go defense, and then a little bit more defense. If you want to watch Chat Sports' live NFL draft content, then what I want you to do is subscribe at the link below. They will get the picks even before I do here on the Raiders Report. And last season, we had close to 1 million viewers there. So if you think these shows get wild, wait till you check it out over there. Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time is when we will get the party started. So please, go check out Chat Sports and go check out our draft content. All right, y'all, that was our top 30 power rankings list for the Las Vegas Raiders. Friendly reminder, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at MitchellRenz365. And if you want to hit me up on IG as well, this might surprise you, it's Mitchell Renz 365.